Thanks for joining us this morning here on Front Porch Conversations at Advent Christian Village. We have two guests this morning. First is Christine O'Brien. Christine, welcome.
Thank you.
And Christine has with her guide dog, Sammy, and Sammy is quite a nice interviewee as well. So we'll have a good time today. But thank you for joining us. And Christine, would you share with us a little bit about where you were born and your early
I was
life?
born in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, 1948, and November 24th. So sometimes my birthday lands on Thanksgiving, which is kind of nice. And then we lived there in Stratford, which is a suburb of Philadelphia. And I went to Overbrook School for the Blind from kindergarten to 6th grade, which is in Philadelphia, and I went home on the weekends. I had two brothers and one sister, and I was the third one. My sister, an older brother, and me, and then my younger brother. So,
when you were boarding during the week, then when you were at the school for the blind.
Yeah, and then would come home for the weekends, come home Friday afternoon, go back either Sunday night or Monday morning.
Christine, when you were in boarding school at an early age, did you have roommates or were you?
The first couple of years I was in a big dorm with, I think, 10 or 15 girls. And then the second grade, we did have rooms in the hallway where there were two in a room. And then the rest of the time was in dorms, that had a bunch of girls in it.
And have you kept in touch with any of those?
Oh, no. I did get in touch with one girl for a while, and then, but that was after I moved to Florida, so that was when I was, a teenager. Mm-hmm. So we had, Overbrook was a very good school, and at the time I didn't appreciate it, though, but it was a very good school. And there was even one exchange student, and I think she was a junior or senior. She went to the blind school in Paris, France, and another girl, I think, came from France. And another year, this one boy went to Germany, and there was a German boy that was in our school. So they had like an exchange type student. So I thought that was interesting.
When you moved to Florida, where did you move?
We moved from to Boca Raton, Florida, which is between Palm Beach and Miami.
And so you finished.
So moved in January. So I finished in public school, and then went to 2 years of junior high school in public school, in junior high school. And then went to Florida School for the Deaf and Blind in St. Augustine from 9th, 10th, and 11th grade. And then went back to Boca Raton High School for my senior year. And that year my parents divorced, and I was living with my two brothers and my dad. And so my mom had an alcoholic problem, and when she drank, she got very violent and mean. She was so different than when she wasn't. She was sober. She was great when she was sober. But, they were married 22 years, and I guess, they kept trying. But anyway, my dad soon found a wonderful lady who had never been married before, and they got married my senior year, and she and our family always got along real great, and she hadn't been married before, so anyway, she was great for our family, and my dad died in 2007, and she's still with us. She's in a retirement home in North Carolina, and she's 91.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah.
We talked a little bit about your siblings. Tell us about your brother who got you involved in things.
I had an older brother, who's a year and a half older than me. He was very fortunate when he was a teenager, and he was in a couple of car accidents, but he didn't get hurt. But when he was a baby, I believe my mom said that he died, and the nurse brought him back with mouth-to-mouth resuscitation. Now, he was a 7-month baby. I was, I think, 1 week before 7 months. But luckily, thank the Lord, he didn't go blind. So, and he was normal. So he kind of made a tomboy out of me, and he'd make me run across the front yard, and he would tackle me with football and show me how he hiked to me, and I'd have to run with the ball and everything. Well, I didn't like to be tackled, and so I'd run as fast as I can, but there was a rose bush in one end of our front yard, and I would run into it. And then there was a holly tree and a little holly bush in the other end of in the front yard. So anyway, but it was good. He sometimes actually got mean, but most of the time it was, I think he helped me a lot to not be a hothouse plant, and to be strong and to be somewhat athletic and all that, and with the wrestling and things like that. So I was very fortunate. I knew several other blind girls who had no brothers and sisters, and I just feel. I didn't think about it much then, but now I feel sorry for them that maybe their parents were afraid to have more children because maybe they thought they would have another blind child. And I don't know how. Well, one lady, one friend I have, I think she was born premature like I was. And the oxygen, if you have too much oxygen, it ruins the retinas in your eyes. And I did see a little bit in one eye, just to see colors close up and to see daylight and dark. And if I could walk around, if I got close enough to something, I could run around, go around it, and stuff like that. So I was very fortunate, but at the time, a lot of times I felt sorry for myself that I didn't have any more sight than I did. But now I just could kick myself, because when I got about 28, I think, I got a cataract. And I never did see out of the right eye. It was the left eye and the doctor said I had a cataract. And when I was 19, I had a detached retina, and I went to Bascom Palmer Eye Institute, and they said, "Well, your retina is in such bad shape, we don't know if we can reattach it." But they did, and I had to be real careful for several weeks, not to wash my hair or anything, and I got some of the sight back I had, but it wasn't as good as it had been. But I was just glad I got something back. So then, 9 years later, I got the cataract, and so I ended up back at the hospital, and one of the doctors that had operated on me saw me again. That was 10 years later. And they thought, well, we don't think it would do any good to operate on the cataract. But when the doctor when I lived in St. Pete and was working, when I saw the doctor in St. Pete, and he's the one who told me I had the cataract, he told me to go back to Bascom Palmer, so I did. Well, when I got home, the neighbors across the street said, "Well, what did the doctor say?" And I said, "Well, he said I had a cataract." And the lady said, "Do you know what happened have you heard about Ray down the street?" And I said, "No." She said, "Well, he's got throat cancer, and if he doesn't have the larynx taken out, he won't be able to eat, and if he does have it taken out, he won't be able to talk." And then I thought, boy, my problem sure is a lot, I'm a lot better off than he is. And my first husband and I went to see him, told him about Jesus, and told him, that we would pray for him. And he went to the hospital, and anyway, died about a few weeks later. But I'm very glad we went to see him. And, it seemed like several times when I had something bad happen to me, I would find out about somebody who was worse off than me. And, like Lord was saying, be thankful for what you got.
Absolutely. Christine, after you graduated from high school, you went to college?
Well, I went to the Rehab Center for the Blind in Daytona Beach and took an English course at the junior college and took some courses at the rehab center, like orientation, which is how to get around, and brushed up on typing, and then took and had a craft class, and had a few classes. I was there for 6 weeks. Then I went to Florida State University 4 years, and Tallahassee, and lived in the dorms. And most of the time I had one roommate, and one time I had no roommate. I was in a dorm with 2 rooms, but one quarter I didn't have any roommate. So, I really enjoyed it. I, of course, was scared when I first went to college. Anybody is, but you have a little extra to think about. You're in my situation. So after my sophomore year, I went. The Florida State had a program where you went to Italy for 6 months, and it was students and teachers from FSU that went there, and we stayed in a villa where we ate, we slept, we had our classes, and they gave us 3-day weekends so we could go to places, to see different places.
Mm-hmm.
And one weekend I went to Rome, one weekend I went to Bern, Switzerland, and and took trains a lot in Europe, and when I took the Italian, they told us at that time you have to take 3/4 of Italian. After that, sometime after that, they only made you take 1/4 of it. But I wanted to take as much as I could because I took Spanish in high school and I liked languages, and so took 3/4 of Italian, and then I thought, if I'm going to Europe, maybe I need to learn a little French. So I started learning French, and I liked it a lot, so I took more of them. And loved the French language, but didn't like a lot of the French literature. It was so depressing and existentialism, and there's no purpose in life, no meaning in life. And also in college, I found out about the Lord. This girl invited me to a Campus Crusade meeting, which they had in different dorms every month, Sunday night, and found out about Jesus. And I needed Jesus as Savior and Lord and all of that. So I started going to the Campus Crusade meetings every Sunday night. And now kids go to college, and they may, if they had any faith, they may very well lose it because there's so much brainwashing to the opposite in colleges, and it's a shame. But college is where I found the Lord too. So
that's a blessing, isn't it?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So anyway,
and you ended up with a double major or a major?
Well, no, just major and minor. I had the major in French. I thought maybe I'd do some kind of interpreting sometime, but I didn't think I wanted to teach, so I wasn't doing it in mind of teaching, and minored in Italian. But and I had a reader who read my Italian who was Italian, and he had met one of the he had met a girl that had gone on the Florence program. This is where we went to, Florence, Italy. Excuse me, I don't know if I mentioned that, where the villa was and everything. It was Florence. And so he married her and had a little boy. Well, anyway, and came over to America, and his English is pretty good. But we spoke Italian. He spoke Italian to me, a lot of times, and that was good for me. So anyway, I was glad I went to college. But I'd never had a job. So after I went to college, I had a job. It was supposed to be for 3 months at the Social Security office. Excuse me, his Internal Revenue Office. But I didn't really like it, and I should have studied. But I was only there, I think, from the middle of January to the beginning of March, and it was a little bit humiliating about being let go, but I was glad because I didn't really like the job. So then I went back to the Rehab Center for the Blind, Daytona Beach, and then that's where they made a makeshift board for the operator job, and I got the operator job the next March in St. Petersburg. with another friend who was blind. She was a few grades below me in school. I didn't really know her that well at school, but anyway, we both got the job. And what we would do is, if somebody was on a party line calling long distance or a toll-free number or information, long distance information, they'd get on my line and I'd ask them what their number is, and they'd give me their number, and then the call would go through to the number they were calling, or if it didn't go through, then they weren't charged. So anyway, that's what I was doing for about 15 years, and then I transferred to another department of the phone company. It was General Telephone and Telegraph, no, General Telephone and Electric, until I think 2000 it became Verizon. So, so the last 15 years or so that I worked was putting together the upper part of a pay telephone, like the hook you hang the receiver on, and the receiver, and the little flipper that you get your dime back if you called information. You'd get your dime back, and the plate on the outside, and somebody else would put the bottom part together, which was a lot more electronic stuff, and then where they connect certain things to the handset, to the receiver, and things like that to make the phone work. And then they would test the phone to see if it worked. So anyway.
And during those years, did you meet Jesse?
No, I met Jesse when I'd been working, putting together pay telephones about 7 years after I started working there. So, and then I worked, when I met him, I worked another 8 years, and he took me to work and brought me back home from work. And then I had to retire in 2002 because they closed down the office because there wasn't a need for payphones anymore. Everybody had cell phones and things like that. So, but luckily I was eligible to retire, so I'd been retired since 2002, but I met Jesse. He always liked to tell everybody he had a blind date. A blind date who was blind, in other words. Anyway, so these friends that we both knew introduced us, and he followed them to my apartment, and I changed clothes, and my dog, I had my second dog at that time, he's a yellow lab named Walker, and Walker, I closed the door to change clothes, and Walker put his hind end against the bedroom door. I closed the bedroom door, and Jesse said he looked at him like, "Make my day." I guess he was kind of looking at him like, "That's my mama, and I'm looking after her."
And what are you doing here?
Yeah, right. So then we all went to a place, went out to dinner. Well, then he started calling me. I guess he decided he liked, he wanted to get to know me better. So we dated a year, and we got married. A very wonderful wedding with about 50 people. It was a sit-down dinner and everything. And I had a very good friend who is my maid of honor who helped me a lot with, and she got a DJ for us to play records, and we did a lot of dancing in our wedding too. So it was just very nice. And then we went to Christian Retreat in Bradenton for our honeymoon, and then after that we went back home, and he took me to work and got me after work, and a few times, and for a while we were in the Campers on Mission. We didn't do a whole lot with that, but we did go to their state convention and the national convention. The state convention was in Chattanooga, Tennessee. Well, I don't know if it was state or exactly, because we lived in Georgia at that time. Mm-hmm. And then the national, everybody had their mobile home, motorhomes. We lived in a motorhome at the time. And that was in Perry, Georgia, at the fairgrounds. Mm-hmm. So, but what we did was sometimes we would go to Brunswick, Georgia, where they had the freighter ships came in, and we would go on a couple of the freighter ships. One time we went with a young Episcopal priest to freighter ship that Filipino crewman.
Christine, tell us what that program was that you were with when you did that.
I believe that was Campers on Mission.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so that was, and when we were at the it was in the International Seamen's House we went to, and we would make goodie bags for the seamen. You know, they'd come in and they'd had these cards, and they would call home and stuff, where they would have they could watch TV, or I think they had some games there they could play, and then people worked there voluntarily. You know, volunteers worked there, and they would take them to Walmart or somewhere to shop, get some goodies or get some stuff they need. But we would make goodies bags to get and put, you know, a pencil and a pad of paper and a disposable razor and, you know, deodorant and a little packet of Kleenex and, I don't know, just goodies like that, stuff like that. And a tract. I believe we put a tract. Well, so one time we went on the ship, and the priest played the guitar and sang some songs, and then he told them about Jesus, and then I guess we did too. And then we went on a Colombian freighter ship, and there was this rope gangplank, this rope. Oh boy! And it was a little bit scary getting on that. I had to really hold on, and it, you know, because it sort of swung and shook a little bit, and so anyway, so I managed to get on and off of that. Well, the Colombians, they offered us some food, and that was really nice of them, because I don't know how much they got. So Josie said, well, it's some food, some soup, and then a juice. I think it was mango juice or something like that. The juice was all right, but I'd never had it before, but it tasted all right. I said, well, what kind of soup is it? And he said, well, you don't want to know, just pray. I said, well, all right. Well, I think it may have, he said it had particles of bone in it. Well, I didn't notice any bone unless it was real overcooked. So anyway, but we said grace, and we ate the soup and thanked them very much. They were, you know, we didn't want to hurt their feelings. And, you know, I've heard missionaries say when they go to these poor countries, they'll share any little thing they have with them. They you know, they may not have much, but they'll share anything that they have with them, you know, like a little bit of food or a little bit of, you know, or let them stay overnight, or, you know, mission trips or whatever, things like that.
Christine, you and Jesse moved to the village about 5 years ago, is that right?
Yeah, in April 2016, and we lived in one of the triplexes, until March the next year, when they had Taylor Commons already, and then we've been in Taylor Commons ever since.
And you learned about the village, I think you said, through your sister who lives in Tallahassee.
Yeah. She took a few years before we moved. She took us we went on a Sunday drive, and she and her husband took us to the village, and we drove around, and then we made arrangements sometime later for Karen to meet Karen Thomas, and she gave us a tour of the village, and and Taylor Commons wasn't there yet then, but we wanted to be in the duplex or triplex and not in one of the apartments, like Dowling House or Carter House. Okay. But, you know, that was too small for us. So.
And tell us a little bit about Sammy.
Okay. Oh, all right. In August 2019, I felt like Lord put it on my heart to get a dog. And I'd had 2 dogs already, but I hadn't had my last dog since 1997 or so. And so Jesse said, okay, call the school, and we'll fill out the application and send it back. So we did, and we got 3 references and gave the school the references. And so they said, it may take you a year to get a dog. Well, even with COVID, it only took 13 months. So it only took 1 more month than they thought, because I think for a few months they didn't have any classes. So, but a few months after I applied, a lady came out and to see where I lived and to see how I got around and that kind of thing. And then she told me about the school, and she said, "All right, do you have any questions?" And I asked her some questions, and then she said, "Well, what kind of dog would you want?" Now, they only have Labradors and Golden Retrievers and Labrador Golden combo. So I said, "Well, I'd want a Labrador Golden combo or a yellow lab. I don't. My first dog was a black lab, and it's not that I don't like black labs. It's just in Florida, I'd rather have a lighter colored dog, because of the sun and everything." So, and she said, "All right, would you want a male or female?" And I said, "Well, I've had 2 males, so it doesn't really matter." Well, so I applied in August of 2019, September 2020, the end of September. I went to the school. Luckily, the pastor's daughter took me to the school, and then she got me when I was ready to come home. So I didn't know how I was going to get there. So the Lord always works everything out. So I was there 19 days, and luckily, fortunately, Jesse, I couldn't have left him alone any much time later than that. Mm-hmm. So it was very fortunate how that worked out. He did all right. He didn't have any emergencies or any problems because he'd been getting weaker by that year and more tired, and he was starting to collect fluid in his belly, and then we found out he had congestive heart failure, and he'd already had diabetes and atrial fibrillation, and he was taking a pill for that. And he did have a valve replacement, aorta valve replacement, I think not too long after we moved into the village. So he wasn't in the best of health. So
but it was amazing that it all worked out so that you had time to get adjusted to Sammy. You and Sammy have done a good job of learning your way around the village.
Right? I don't quite know how to get to the cafeteria yet, although somebody showed me a few times. But I can go across the street to the grocery store and the post office and the Twice Nice and a rustic shop, and so I'm pretty good about getting across the street. And every time somebody sees her, they want to speak to her. They want to pet her. And I say, when she's working, she's in her harness, shouldn't pet her, and probably shouldn't even talk to her. But anyway, I just love her. I think she's the best dog I've ever had. And this particular dog food company, sponsors the school, so you can get that particular food for free. Wonderful. And they get it for free, and if we want it, we get it for free, and they send it to us by UPS or FedEx. I don't know which.
Sammy looks like she's doing well and being well fed.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah.
Well, I want to thank both of you for being with us today, and Sammy, you too. I know you're kind of at rest, but we're glad you're here. Thank you so much, Christine. Thank you so much for tuning in today to Front Porch Conversations. Look forward to coming back and having another interview with someone. Thanks a lot.